Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janabhalabha Giribharadhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Ashtotarashata Shishimadhi His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantarash Shimam Bhagavatam Ki Nitai Gaura Premanandi, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shishiguru and Shiguranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10. Canto 10 is a summon bonon. Chapter 89, Krishna and Arjuna retrieve a Brahmana. A Brahmana? Hold on. Son. That's it, no? Okay. Text number 1. But before that, we have to read the chapter summary by the disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Chapter summary. This chapter describes how Bhrigu Muni proved the supremacy of Lord Vishnu and how Lord Krishna and Arjuna recover the dead sons of an aggrieved Brahmana in Dwarka. Once, long ago, on the shore of the river Saraswati, a discussion arose among a group of sages as to which of the three chief lords, Brahma, Vishnu, or Shiva, is the greatest. They deputed Bhrigu Muni to investigate the matter. Bhrigu decided to test the Lord's tolerance. For that quality is a sure sign of greatness. First, he entered the court of Lord Brahma, his father, without offering him any respect. This enraged Brahma, who suppressed his anger because Bhrigu was his son. Next, Bhrigu went to Lord Shiva, his older brother, who rose from his seat to embrace him, but Bhrigu rejected the embrace, calling Shiva a deviant heretic. Just as Shiva was about to kill Bhrigu with his trident, Goddess Parvati intercede and pacify her husband. Next, Bhrigu went to Vaikuntha to test Lord Narayana. Going up to the Lord, who was lying with his head on the lap of the goddess of fortune, Bhrigu kicked his chest. But instead of becoming angry, both the Lord and his consort stood up and offered Bhrigu respects. Quote, "Welcome," say the Lord. Quote, "Please sit down and rest a while. Kindly forgive us, dear master, for not noticing your arrival." End of quote. When Bhrigu went back to the assembly of the sages and told them all that had happened, they concluded that Lord Vishnu is certainly supreme. Once in Dwarka, a Brahmana's wife gave birth to a son who immediately died. A Brahmana took his dead son to the court of King Ugrasena and berated the king. Quote, "This duplicitous, greedy enemy of Brahmanas have caused my son's death by failing to execute his duties properly." End of quote. The same misfortune continued to befall the Brahmana, and each time he will bring his dead infant's body to the royal court and berate the king. When the ninth son died at birth, Arjuna happened to hear the Brahmana's complaint, and he said, quote, "My lord, I will protect your progeny, and if I fail, I will enter fire to atone for my sin." End of quote. Sometime later, the Brahmana's wife was about to give birth for the 10th time. When Arjuna learned this, he went to the maternity house and enveloped it with a protected cage of arrows. Arjuna's efforts were to no avail. However, for as soon as the child was born and began to cry, it disappeared into the sky. As the Brahmana profusely derided Arjuna, the warrior set off for the abode of Yamaraj, the king of death. But Arjuna did not find the Brahmana's son there. And even after searching throughout the 14 worlds, he could not find no trace of the infant. Having failed to protect the Brahmana's son, Arjuna was now intent on committing suicide by entering the sacred fire. But just as he was about to do so, Lord Krishna stopped him and said, "I will show you the Brahmana's sons. So please don't despise yourself like this." Lord Krishna then took Arjuna onto his transcendental chariot, and the two of them crossed over the 7 universal islands with their 7 oceans, passed over the Lokaloka mountain range, and entered the region of dense darkness. Since the horses could not find their way, Krishna sent his blazing Sudarshan disc ahead to pierce the gloom. Gradually, they came to the water of the causal ocean, within which they found the city of Lord Mahavishnu. There they saw the thousand-hooded serpent Ananta, and upon him lay Mahavishnu. The great Lord greeted Sri Krishna and Arjuna, saying, quote, I brought the Brahmana son here simply because I wanted to see the two of you. Please continue to benefit the people in general by exemplifying religious behavior in your forms as Nara, Narayan Rishi. Lord Krishna and Arjuna then took the Brahmana son, went back to Dwarka, and returned the infants to their father. Having directly experienced the greatness of Sri Krishna, Arjuna was amazed. He concluded that only by the Lord's mercy can a living being any exhibit any power or opulence. Text number 1. Sri Sukha Uvacha Saraswatyastate Rajam Drissaja Satrang Asata Vitarka Samabhuttesham Trishu Adye Trishwadye Trishwadisheshu Komaham. Sri Sukha Uvacha Saraswatyastate Rajam Rishaya Shastrang Ashata Vitarka Samabhuttesham Trishwadisheshu Komaham. Sri Sukha Uvacha Saraswatyastate Rajam Rishaya Shatrang Ashata Vitarka Samabhuttesham Trishwadisheshu Komaham. Please chant. Sri Sukha Uvacha Saraswatyastate Rajam Rishaya Satrang Ashata Vitarka Samabhuttesham Trishwadisheshu Komaham. Sri Sukha Uvacha Saraswatyastate Rajam Rishaya Shatrang Ashata Vitarka Samabhuttesham Trishwadisheshu Komaham. Sri Sukha Uvacha Saraswatyastate Rajam Rishaya Shatram Ashata Vitarka Shamabhuttesham Trishwadhishe Shuko Maham. Sri Sukha Uvacha Sara Satyastate Rajam Rishaya Shatram Ashata Vitarka Samabhuttesham Trishwadhishe Shuko Maham. Sri Sukha Uvacha. Sukadev Goswami said, Saraswatyaha, of the river Saraswati, Tate, on the bank, Rajam, O King Parikshit, Rishaya, sages, Shatram, a Vedic sacrifice, Ashata, were performing, Vitarkaha, a disagreement, Samabhut, arose, Tesham, among them, Trishu, among the three, Adhisheshu, chief lords, Kaha, who, Mahan, the greatest. Translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sukadev Goswami said, once, O king, as a group of sages were performing a Vedic sacrifice on the banks of the Saraswati river, a controversy arose among them as to which of the three chief deities is supreme. And we have this purport that is super short for a change. The three chief deities mentioned here are Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva. End of purport. Since that's too short, I'm going to read Srila Jiva Goswami's commentary and Srila Sanatana Goswami commentary that is described a little longer. Especially Srila Jiva Goswami gives a little further understanding. Anger, and listen to this, because remember that the previous chapter described how Lord Shiva was saved by Lord Vishnu after Lord Shiva gave this benediction to this demon. Very crazy benediction. Or rather to say, let me put it another way. The demon asked for a very crazy benediction, and Lord Shiva somehow or other obliged that crazy benediction. And then ended, being put in a very difficult situation that Lord Vishnu saved him. So now, this is what Srila Jiva Goswami comments, the following chapter. So the narration. Now, Srila Sukadev Goswami continue the narration. So anger, because Shiva with upadis was easily pleased, while considering how the Lord gave things which bring about the highest, purest goal because of his pure Swarup, Sukadev now shows Vishnu's superiority to Brahma. He speaks of Vishnu's superiority over Shiva and Brahma, and Vishnu's compassion and humility, though he was insulted. The sages were performing a sacrifice. Present tense is used to show that it continued till the present. Because they were absorbed in the action of sacrifice, they did not notice the passing of time, the wonder using scripture, Sam Abhud, who was supreme among the three. And this is what Srila Sanatana Goswami comments on this verse. Brigu and the other sages of the Saraswata lineage perform a sacrifice, or they were seated on the bank of the Saraswati River. The present tense is used to indicate that they were absorbed in sacrifice. The wonder using scripture as a basis, who was the greatest among the three, who were the most worthy of service in all the worlds, or were masters of blessing and cursing, or though it was possible to though it was impossible to discuss, they discuss. O king, Sukadev expressed astonishment that the knowledgeable sages discuss this, though Vishnu is in all cases supreme. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Ummilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurube Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Ramapada Swami Iti Namine Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirveshesha Shunyavadi Pashatyade Satarine Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyaevacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha. Haribo. Praktak Prabhu, welcome. Nice to see you. So this is quite something. Well, our acharyas are sort of painting the picture of the continuum of Sukadev Goswami narrating, and the fact that we have even great personalities, sages, that have this question that who is supreme, even questioning who is supreme, when Sukadev Goswami is the self-evident truth is that Lord Vishnu is supreme. Is described clearly in the essence of the Vedas at the end of all knowledge, that Lord Vishnu is supreme. And in one sense, just this whole discussion is not very palatable. The whole purpose of the Bhagavatam is to fully establish the supremacy of Lord Krishna as the Swayam Bhagavan, the source of everything. Because although that is described in the Vedas, throughout the Vedas, there is also other things that are described for different levels in which you have different personalities, such as Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, to be described as supreme. Even sometimes the word Bhagavan is used to describe some of these personalities. So, from the perspective of the Veda, or the perfect understanding of the Vedas, you understand that it is for different levels. For example, if you live here in Chicago, who is the supreme authority of Chicago? Well, we have the governor of Illinois, but in Chicago we have the mayor of Chicago. So he is the authority, or she is the authority of the city of Chicago, the top authority. But that person, Chicago, is under Illinois state. So that person is under the governor. And Illinois is within the 50 states of the USA. So that person, the governor, is accountable to the president. So in different levels, you may have someone who is considered the top supreme. In fact, we also see that each state has a Supreme Court. But those courts are are under the the country's Supreme Court, like that. So this is what the Vedas present. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is the scripture that is compiled to categorically and conclusively establish the position of Lord Krishna as supreme, as the source of all. So the discussion is after so much is revealed like that, still that is being discussed. I mean, even right now we're talking on the 10th canto. Sukadev Goswami has been speaking to all these sages. And even this doubt, even if this doubt is still lingering, he's still, he's addressing them. He's addressing them in this way. So this is a very interesting thing. The this pastime of finding out who is conclusively supreme between these three controllers of the universe. So, Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva. They're considered guna avatars. Guna avatars means that they're expansions or expansion of the expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that descends into this world to perform a particular activity. So the guna avatars, specifically, they control the modes of nature. So Lord Vishnu himself controls the mode of goodness, and the manifestation of that control is the maintenance of the whole world. Lord Brahma controls the mode of passion, Rajagun, and its manifestation is to create. And Lord Shiva controls the mode of ignorance, in which the main feature is the destruction of the material world. So these are worshipable personalities because of their position, the avatars. They're not ordinary. And again, in certain levels, they're considered supreme. So, who is supreme among them? The sages were asking themselves, were having this discussion. So I'm assuming, because what is described here in the verse as there was a controversy. So it means that some were thinking this, some were thinking that, some were thinking that, right? So who is supreme? So they decided, okay, we assign Bhrigu Muni to find out. Now, who is Bhrigu Muni? Well, Bhrigu Muni is one of the 10 mental sons of Lord Brahma. Manasaputra is the term that is used. Manasaputra. There's 10 mental sons that appears from the mind of Lord Brahma. And those are the 4 Kumaras. And I give you a list. I have it somewhere in here. So we have the 4 Kumaras. Then we have Marichi Rishi. So Marichi, we hear him in the narrations of the scriptures. Atri Rishi, Angira Rishi, Pulaha Rishi, Pulatsya Rishi, Kratu Rishi, Vashishta Rishi, Prachetasha Rishi, Brigu Rishi, or Brigu Muni, and Narada Muni. Those are the 10. And we have the 4 Kumaras, and we have Lord Shiva. The first sons of Lord Brahma were the 4 Kumaras, and then he wanted to create sons for the purpose of the sons assisting him in the whole creation of the universe, and especially the population. He needed Prajapatis. Prajapatis means those personalities who will bring, procreate the different, or populate the universe with living entities, with forms that will house different living entities. So the 4 Kumaras were the first sons of Lord Brahma. And then when Lord Brahma said, well, my dear sons, now I need you to assist me. So please get busy for creating progeny. And the 4 Kumaras say, no. We want to remain brahmacharis. We don't want to get entangled in this business of procreation and things like that. Lord Brahma was unhappy about that, and from his anger, then it came Lord Shiva, Rudra. Then he manifests for this purpose of populating the universe these 10 sons. Narada was the one who remained a brahmachari. The other became Prajapatis, all of them. They marry different daughters of Daksha. And with that, the whole universe became populated. So Brigu Muni was one of these 10 sons. Brigu is also described in the Bhagavad Gita, mentioned by Lord Krishna himself. In the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, that is called Vibhuti Yoga, or the opulence of the Absolute, Krishna mentioned Brigu as one of those opulence that represent him in this world. He say, Mahar Rishinam Brigur Aham. Maha Rishinan, of all the great sages, the rishis, all the great rishis, this Brigu I am. So he describes Brigu as, represents one of the opulence. The opulence of these rishis, renounced transcendentalists. So Brigu is mentioned. So he's not ordinary sage. Among the great sages, he is, the one that represents the opulence of Krishna. So Brigu Muni is also famous for compiling this great astrological shastra that is called the Brigu Samhita. Brigu Samhita. And this Brigu Samhita describe the past, present, and future of all living entities. It's quite something. I'm going to read you at the end some description of his experience with the Brigu Samhita of His Holiness Indradumya Swami. He writes about it in his, books, The Traveling Monk, or the Adventures of the Traveling Monk, or something. But anyway, let's go back to this test, which is quite significant. It's quite something, because it tells us a lot of things. So we know when some scientist wants to do a test, you basically have different testing groups, and you apply a variation of the particular element that you want to test. So suppose you want to test a medicine, and you give that medicine to a group of certain age, it's similar. You have to be similar things in order to be able to see, or to be able to assess the effects of this medicine. But in this case, we have Bhrigu Muni, who decided to test these three personalities with the element of offense. So he wants to offend them, and he wants them to experience being offended. And according to that, he decided to use this offensive behavior of this offense to test them, because he considered that tolerance will be the highest symptom of supremacy. Who will be the most tolerant? There's a nice verse that says something. Actually, Srila Prabhupada writes this in Krishna book. Prabhupada says, the example is given that small lamps may become agitated by a little breeze, but the greatest lamp, or the greatest illuminating source, the sun, is never moved, even by the greatest hurricane. One's greatness have to be estimated by one's ability to tolerate provoking situations. So this is in Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Prabhupada. So he decided to use this, an offense. But the thing that is quite remarkable, or at least, that you can question, is that he doesn't use the same measure of offense for the three. He used a different measure of offense. For Lord Brahma, he used the offense that is mental, in the mind. So in the mind, you deride someone like that. And that's offensive, but it's subtle. Sometimes we sense that if someone has some really sort of bad vibes towards you, you feel it, even without the person saying anything. You feel something, I feel it doesn't, you feel uncomfortable. Something, you feel something, a vibe, a bad vibe, So you can be mentally offensive to someone. You may be thinking like that. And so with Lord Rama, he made an offense, a mental offense. With Lord Shiva, he went further. He used offenses by words. So is manifesting the offense by saying words, insulting words. So he insulted Lord Shiva. He say, "You heretic, don't touch me. You're, like that." I mean, horrible. We also, most of us has experienced sometimes someone, saying offensive words or hurt or uh, how you say, aggressive words towards oneself, and it hurts. It actually affects you. It creates something. So he went that. But with Lord Vishnu, he went further. He did a physical offense. He physically attacked Lord Vishnu. So why? Why he did this is a question that we may ask. Why not testing everybody the same way? Okay, and then you can see. So why not testing everybody physically? You go. So he went first into the court of Lord Brahma. He could have gone straight, and kick also Lord Brahma in his throne. Same with Lord Shiva, but no, he did differently. So why is that? How can we answer that? Well, I didn't read this in the explanation of the Acharyas, but one can possibly sort of uh, conclude, or at least, uh, how you say when you make infer. One can infer that he already have an understanding. Bhrigu Muni had already an understanding of these different personalities. So he tested like that. He has already certain understanding. Both Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, they became offended. And also one can question, well, how is that they became offended when they're such an elevated personalities that are definitely transcendental? How is that they offended? In general, great personalities, they, you know, they're very much equipoise. I mean, Krishna says that they're always equipoise in the face of happiness and distress, fame and infamy, being offended or not being offended like that, or praise. So they always equipoise. So why did they become offended? Well, one understanding is throughout the scriptures is that these personalities, the way they become offended is not like we become offended. That, there's a false ego sort of acting. They became offended because this is something that they're obliged to set examples. They're obliged to maintain order in the universe. They're obliged to uphold religious principle. So when someone deviates from that, then you have to establish. So what is the principle that both Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma are protecting? Respect. Respect is something that you have that is so imbibed in the human culture. Without respect, there's no possibilities, there's no civilization, human civilization. You're uncivilized when there is no respect. And this type of respect, especially to those who are superior, is a great offense. It's an offense that creates, it's almost like a cancer in society. That if you allow to be unattended, it's just going to contaminate everything. My spiritual master says that the most important element for a thriving community, spiritual community, is a culture of respect. That's why we're supposed to be trained in this Vaishnava etiquette. Vaishnava etiquette is just about respect. How to deal with respect, all types of everything being, treated with respect. So therefore, they have to punish that. So Lord Shiva was going to kill Bhrigu Muni because of his disrespectful offense. Parvati stopped him. So we're going to hear the pastime. So we hear the pastime and we analyze it. But I'm, bringing this question in the beginning. So these two personalities, Brahma and Shiva, they reacted. They became upset. And they were ready, Lord Shiva to punish Lord Brahma. Bhrigu left before Lord Brahma, punish him. Lord Brahma didn't punish him because it was mental. It didn't go into something gross. When he transgressed, when he crosses that line from being subtle into something gross, meaning by words or by actions, then yes, it have to be punished. It have to be addressed. It have to be addressed for protecting society. Now, Lord Vishnu. So the question is, okay, so I understand that the protection of the principles, the religious principles of respect, that is at the heart of a civilized society, of a progressive spiritual society. What happened to Lord Vishnu? Because that was the worst offense. So this question here once is, why Bhrigu Muni felt free to do this, to go up to the Lord and kick him in the chest. I mean, it's horrifying just to think about it. And then, why does Lord Vishnu tolerated it? Why not, punish this? So this is some understanding that has been discussed in Vaishnava circles. These two things. One is that Bhrigu has some understanding. He's a Brahmana. And there's a special relationship between Lord Vishnu and the Brahmanas. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Jagat Hitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. The Brahmanas are very dear to Lord Krishna. The Brahmanas represent Lord Krishna. The Brahmanas are those personalities that are devoted. They understand Brahman. They're spiritual people. And Bhrigu Muni, like we hear, among rishis, he is a great, great personality. So one, the fact that he decided to test the tolerance of Lord Vishnu by this aggression, this action of this offensive action, was that he understood he did it without fear of the consequences. So he had some understanding. He knew that, you know, he was not afraid of the consequence. If you commit an offense like that, you go to hell. But for a Brahmana, heaven or hell is the same because they're always absorbed in transcendence. That's what, that's what the scriptures tell us. That for a Brahmana, they always so absorbed in the service of Krishna. There's some nice verse uh, that explains that. Devotees solely engage in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, never fear any conditions of life. For them, the heavenly planets, liberation, and the hellish planets are all the same. For such devotees are interested only in the service of the Lord. So, Bhrigu Muni have no fear. He had no fear to come to Lord Vishnu and kick him in the chest. So that shows that the perspective of Bhrigu Muni, he had to know something to be able to decide to do. He was making a point in one sense. He was establishing with no doubt the supremacy of Lord Vishnu. He was serving the Lord in that way. He have to. And then you have Lord Vishnu's response. So one can question, well, why did Lord Vishnu didn't mind or didn't address, like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma, the protection of this quality of respect? Imagine. So now any Brahmana can go, and do something like that heinous. Or anyone can, for a matter of fact, if an example, if a Brahmana does, when we can do too. So you can go to anyone, that you don't like, you're in the Bhagavatam class, and you don't like what the devotee said in the Bhagavatam, and you go straight and kick it in the chest, You can do like that. Why not? Bhrigu did it. You quote the Shastras, So, why did Lord Vishnu did not chastise or punish Bhrigu? Well, the example that Lord Vishnu is given is how you deal with Brahmanas, especially Brahmanas who are elevated or who are transcendent, who are in the position of spiritual realization. Those Brahmanas who are in that position, they should be always respected and protected. And like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, even if they commit something abominable, you still, providing they're situated in that position of transcendence, you should not punish like that. That also brings questions. Well, that could open to some people abusing the position of being a Brahmana. But from the scripture perspective and from Krishna's perspective, I'm sorry, Brahmanas are very dear to him. If your son comes and tries and kicks you, you don't react, like that. You don't, taken offense. In this case, there is something that is happening. One is that Brigu Muni had a point to make. He is supreme. He was doing that to show the world the character, the quality, and the supremacy of the Lord. That was his purpose. And in the case of the Lord, he was lovingly reciprocating with that too. And making the point that Brahmanas had a very special position. And in the case of those who are not qualified to be Brahmanas, who trying to take advantage of these things to act in heinous ways, they're not called Brahmanas, they're called Brahma Bandhus. They call so-called Brahmanas. They're not Brahmanas, they call the son of a Brahmana, or the unqualified Brahmanas. So that's something that as we go to this chapter, or at least to this pastime, we're going to try to absorb. I'm going to do a quick reading for you of this fantastic narration of this Brigu Samhita, since we're talking of Brigu Muni, which is quite fascinating. It's a book that can tell you past, present, and future. So if you want to know your past, your present, and your future, there's a way. And Prabhupada tells like that, and this is narrated by His Holiness Indradumya Swami. So I hope you don't mind. We're already 8:30, but it's quite nice. Srila Prabhupada. Yes, there is the Brigu Samhita, astrological calculation. You can know your past life, present life, and future life. That is the system of Brigu Samhita. So this is the incident that Maharaj narrates. Before leaving Vrindavan for the west, I told Sri Prahlad Das that I wanted to take darshan of the famous deity of Srinathji in Rajasthan. The deity was discovered on Govardhan Hill by the great devotee Madhavendra Puri more than 500 years ago, before the advent of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The deity was later moved from Vrindavan to Natwar, not far from the present town of Udaipur. That would be wonderful, say Prahlad, Sri Prahlad. At the same time, we could visit a famous astrologer a few hours away in the desert. He is known as a Brigu because he reads one's future from the Brigu Samhita. Can he really predict the future, I asked? Oh yes, replied Sri Prahlad. The science of Brigu Samhita is still valid. Srila Prabhupada confirmed this at the end of Dwapara Yuga. Brigu Muni was concerned that in Kali Yuga, many astrologers will not be qualified. So he wrote down everyone's chart and included past, present, and future's life. Copies of those charts are kept safely in 4 different places in India. When you visit a Brigu, you see written in your chart that you will come on that very day for a reading. That very day, I say? Not only the day, but also the hour too, Sri Prahlad said. I went to my room and searched through Srila Prabhupada's books and lectures on the Veda base, and to my amazement found the following quotation. Quote, how can we understand past, present, and future? Through the Shastra. There are still astrological calculations in India called Brigu Samhita. If you consult Brigu Samhita, immediately they will give you your past, present, and future. Immediately they will give. The astrology science is so perfect. What you were in the past life, what you are in the present, and what you are going to be. These three things can be known. End of quote. That evening I met Sri Praladan again. Again, I said, I think I'll take up your on that proposal to visit the Brigu. Really? Said Prahlad, Sri Prahlad. Yes, I said. I'd be interested to see what opportunities for devotional service lie ahead for us this coming year. 2 days later, Sri Prahlad, Bhima Prasad Das, Dhruva Das, and I arrived in Udaipur. After settling in, we took 1 hour taxi ride through rolling hills to the village of Natadwar, where we visited the temple of Srinathji. It was less crowded than when I was there 5 years ago, and we enjoyed a wonderful darshan. The afternoon, that afternoon, we hired a taxi and drove further into the desert. After 4 hours, we reached an old, dusty village in what seems like like middle of nowhere. How in the world are we going to find the Brigu in this place? I asked. There are no street signs, what to speak of house numbers. The local will know him, Sri Prahlad replied. He opened the window and asked in Hindi for the directions from a passing rickshaw driver. The Brigu house is 2 streets down on the corner, says Sri Prahlad as he closed the window. As we drove on, I saw an old man in a dhoti standing on a porch looking in our direction. That must be the place, Sri Prahlad said. How can you be sure? I asked. Because the Brigu is waiting for us, he said. Waiting for us, I say? Yes, he said. It is in our chart that we'll be arriving this morning. A shiver went through my body. We stopped in front of the house and got out. The old man came forward to greet us. You're right on time, he said with a smile. I looked at Sri Prahlad. Right on time, I said. Sri Prahlad winked. The old man invited us into his small house and brought us onto a room lit by a small kerosene lamp. I saw old pictures of saints and sages on the wall, and I asked Sri Prahlad about the most prominent one, a white-bearded sadhu sitting with a large book in his lap. Brigu Muni, Sri Prahlad whispered. Please write down your place of birth, the date, and the time, the old man said to me. Then he reached into his old wooden box and pulled out some papers, and he placed one in front of me. Close your eyes, he said, and put your index finger on one of the diagrams on the sheet. I hesitated for a moment, then closed my eyes and put my finger squarely on the paper. When I opened my eyes, I saw I had touched the center of one of approximately 20 circles. In the middle of each circle were various designs on and what seems like numbers. The old man quickly took the paper and checked the clock on the wall. Then he took a small blackboard and chalk and started writing down various calculations. He reached behind himself and brought forward a cloth, untied it, searched among another pile of papers, and carefully selected one. Then he sat up straight and started reading from the old paper. Quote, You were born in America, he said loudly. Well, that's obvious, I thought. I just wrote it down. Your father died when you were 17 and your mother when you were 47, he continued. I looked at him surprised. You left your country of birth when you were a young man and been traveling the world ever since in the mission of your Guru. You have many places to live, but you don't stay anywhere. You're always traveling. You were married and had one son when you left your family to become a sannyasi. He broke out in a big grin. You're much happier as a sannyasi than you were as a married man. His expression became serious again. Your brother has a very difficult life. He is presently living with a woman, but he is not married to her. He will not benefit you, but you will benefit him greatly. I sat dumbfounded, staring at him. You chant the name of Krishna daily, he said, and you worship your own set of deities as well. You have written at least 5 books to date, and you will write many more. I didn't hear the last part of the sentence clearly. Many more, I asked. Yes, he said, and whatever you write will be published twice. Published twice, I said. I looked at Sri Prahlad and he thought for a moment, then smiled. The internet, he said. You send your diary chapters out on the internet, and at the end of the year, they're published in a book form. This is amazing, I say. Your health is generally good because you eat simple foods, the Brigo said, but you eat too many sweets. He looked up. You should stop eating sweets, he said firmly. He is not there to flatter you, says Sri Prahlad. He is reading what Brigu Muni wrote. You must be careful while riding in cars, the Brigu said. Once you were hit by a car and nearly killed. Is that true or not? Yes, I say slowly, it's true. In South Africa in 1992, I was hit by a car and spent many months in bed recovering. He returned to the reading. Your most valuable possessions were stolen last year, he continued. I turned to Sri Prahlad. I think he got it wrong on that one. I said, Sri Prahlad seems tired of my obstinacy. Remember how all your deity paraphernalia was stolen by the skinheads in Poland in June 2004, he said. Wow, I said, that's right. I was convinced, and I turned submissively to hear more. The old man looked up and stared at me, and then looked down again at the paper. 1,000 years ago, he said, you were a king in Karnataka. You were very wealthy and distributed most of your wealth to hospitals, schools, and temples. At the end of that life, you retired to the forest. In your previous birth, you had 2 wives. And at the end of that life, you pray, if I take birth again, I don't want to be a grihasta. I want to be a sannyas and devote all my life to God. So in this birth, you took sannyas at the age of 29, correct? Yes, sir, I replied, correct. It is the result of your previous actions and desires, he said. In this verse, you get immense blessings from your spiritual master because you've chosen the path of bhakti. You won't take birth again. You'll be liberated at 10th of this life. You live into old age and you'll die a natural death. You won't die from a prolonged illness. I turned to Sri Prahlad. Well, if that all comes true, I say, I do my best to use such fortune in the service of the Lord. All your friends will be good people, the Brigu continued. Part of my good fortune, I say to Sri Prahlad with a smile. From this point on, your affluence will increase day by day, the Brigu say. Later in your life, you construct a large temple for Radha and Krishna. The worship will be gorgeous. If the government tries to impede your efforts, you be victorious over them, and at the same time you construct a Goshala for cows. There will be a Gurukula and perhaps an orphanage as well. He smiled. Many children will come to you, he said. How will I accomplish all that? I blurted out. He looked closely at the paper. Your disciples will help you, he said. They will raise the funds. They will, they will have some kind of import-export business. So anyway, because it's time, there's more to it. But it shows this pretty amazing um, Samhita or Vedic book that have the charts of everyone that describe past, present, and future. So if any of us wants to go there and find one of the brigus, a bona fide brigu, you may have all this information. Just gonna stop here. Any comments or questions? Just one question because of the time.
Um, the familial relationship between Lord Shiva and Bhrigu Muni is there, and then Bhrigu Muni is not receiving a very favorable response from Lord Shiva when he refuses to embrace him or even insults him verbally. So the fact that Lord Shiva is willing to kill him is interesting because there's a familial relationship, because generally there's more tolerance in familial relationships.
Yeah, well, Lord Shiva was pacified just by Parvati reminding him exactly of that. He's your brother. You can't kill him. Forgive him like that. And then Lord Shiva became pacified. But the initial thing was, this is a transgression that needs to be punished with death. I mean, I'm assuming, that to have someone of that status, to do that type of transgression is very serious. Different that, some clunkers, person like that. But yeah, see, Lord Shiva immediately after being reminded, he got pacified. Yeah. All right, we stop here. Grantara Shiman Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Thank you so much.